Hey Axis and Allies players, the good captain here. Welcome to round 2 in this game of Axis and Allies D-Day played against a human opponent. I'm going to review the end of Germany round 1 and then execute Allied round 2. This is where we left off, and I'll go over the overall dice, but I'll do the German turn, finish the turn 1 first, and then we'll go over very quickly and review, who did better on the dices in the opening round here. So, the Germans are going to move and then execute one round of combat. But before I do, I have to explain one quick little mistake I made. Obviously, there was an artillery here in G10, and I totally spaced on this for reasons I'm not going to get into, but my opponent was gracious enough to allow me to relocate that to G11. I was kind of on a coin toss between those two. And I'm not even sure, this is a wider discussion of what the best placement for the fighters is. I'm getting closer to a final answer, but for the time being, I leave my mind open to what the best thing is there to do. So, on the German turn, he has to, by game rules, attack the 82nd Airborne with the pieces in this space. Okay. Fighter's not there, so the armor moves in just fine. Okay. He brings in the infantry north of Utah. The one out in the fields here, south of Cherbourg. Sorry, and the armor. So all of the pieces that can are going in on the 82nd here. There's some mild relocation of assets from Cherbourg. I interpret this to mean that he's setting up for a pitched battle out here in the fields, and we'll get to that in a moment. He has to, again by game rules, has to attack or counterattack at Omaha Beach. And he does not reinforce that. These pieces have not yet moved. Can't remember if he does or not. Anyway, and then the blockhouse goes into Gold Beach, Juno Beach, and Sword Beach. Okay. The units in Caen relocate to the outskirts. I can't remember if there's too many undos. Looks like the battle group's forming up here. Okay, so he did bring in these pieces. So it's a full counterattack, or near full counterattack into Omaha Beach. No, undo, okay. okay, so he thought about it and pulled off. Sorry. Sometimes these undos, it's kind of weird. When you go through it, you can kind of see the way your opponent, this is true for any version of AAA, you can almost see how your opponent was thinking or what they were considering. Okay, so here we have an infantry moving out of Rouen, and a dice is rolled. Now, technically, this should be done. This is a kind of a gray area that we're still trying to work out, but technically, by game rules, you're supposed to make all moves. All moves. You're supposed to declare all moves, make sure you're not busting the piece count limitation in each territory, and then retroactively go back and roll per piece per fighter. So in this case, we're kind of still working it out, but an infantry passes through, has to roll, and gets missed. The same is true for the armor. He falls back from Omaha, and then here as well. So we have two pieces moving out of Rains to St. Lo. Those pass through. So it's a total of 4 dice. The fighters miss them all, and we go into German combat. So in A10, the counterattack against the 82nd Airborne. The Germans only score 1 hit, the Allies whiff. In A11, the blockhouse on Utah Beach attacks because it has to. It picks up a hit. The Americans dispose of it. So that beach is clear. On Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, the German counterattack picks up 2 kills. So warmish roll, but the Americans devastate the Germans in the counterfire. And Omaha Beach is shockingly clear at the beginning of round 2. This is kind of a rare moment for the Allies. First I've seen of this in any of my games. Not impossible, just low probability event. And the German blockhouses in the remaining 3 territories, I believe they all go out without doing anything. Right. So, and this is sort of accounted for because we're about to go into round 2, and now the naval gunfire support, there's only 2 blockhouses remaining that can fire to sea, and so they will be disposed of on this pre-game. So I think a savvy Allied player should be able to knock off, and as long as there's average dice, you should be able to knock off most, if not all, maybe 1 remaining, maybe 2 blockhouses. Like that card needs to be removed from the deck as an Allied player. You really want to get rid of that thing. So you just have a limited amount of pieces. It's hard enough getting reinforcements. I'll probably discuss that in the series. As the Allies, it's hard to get reinforcements, so you really want to take the pressure off of the pieces you do get. So then my opponent rolls, so I roll for the Allies roll for their reinforcements, and we roll the minimum. Well, you have to roll for the Americans, but anything above a 4 is ignored. You just get 4 pieces. The only difference is if you roll a 3 or a Snake Eyes, and then you only get those pieces, and that's because of this deployment card. Since the first 6 pieces have to go to Utah Beach, the capacity for Utah Beach is only 4. The next 2 have to come on in the next turn, so you have to actually you can only put 4, and you have to roll starting from that artillery piece that must go into Utah, and then the next 2 pieces, pair of pieces after the next. So piece 5 and 6 go to Utah, piece 7 and 8 go to Omaha, and then you can finally start putting them wherever you want as the Americans. Okay, and then the British roll pretty hot. I roll a 9, so essentially the Allied reinforcement roll was +2. The average of 2 dice being rolled is a 7, so 2 over 7 is 9. This is basically a fixed roll for the Americans, so we kind of ignore that. Allies +2 reinforcement roll. The Germans, and this is all done on the forum using the dice bot, but the Germans roll an 8 for Reens and a 6 for Ruin, so this is a flat roll. Like if you played low luck, for the most part, this would be what you'd get. 14 pieces. 8 on one side, 6 on the other. But since the fighters have blanketed all the reinforcement locations, in this case, my opponent rolls in order of appearance, and the 5th piece on the Reens side is destroyed, and the 5th piece on the Ruin side is destroyed. So on the Reens side, an artillery is blasted. On the Ruin side, it's an armor. Not a bad haul, especially being that on the Reens side, that was the only AA gun. So there's an opportunity here going into turn 2. We'll get to that in a moment. So who got the better dice? Well, I crunched every single pip, every single roll, and the Allies overall scored -0.5. So pretty much right down the center line of the bell curve. Very stock opener in terms of aggressive rolling for the Allies. The Germans rolled overall net -3. So this is a cool German opener, slightly cooled German opener. There's a sort of a dispersal of good and bad dice effect here, though, that I have to address, and the fact is that this is the first game I've seen so far where all 5 beaches are cleared at the end of round 1. This is a maneuver, definitely a plus on the side of the Allies in a way that can't be accounted for by probability. The fact that all units on the beaches are clear and can move, that's basically a whole turn of movement, at least for Omaha. Typically, you feel pretty decent as the Allied player, at least I'm starting to feel pretty decent as the Allied player if you clear the 4 beaches that aren't Omaha. In this case, not only did we clear all 4, but we cleared Omaha itself. So that's as the Allies, the Allied player, I'm feeling pretty warm about that. Okay, let's get to pushing some dice. So the first thing we have is the naval bombardment, and we're all ready to go. So we'll just ignore this one to the end of the game for the most part. I don't see any reason to put British pieces on Sword Beach. Juno is the primary beach for UK reinforcements, and if there's overflow, or threat to Caen, then we would go there. So anyway, not too much strategy in regards to putting the pieces in. So we're going to go for the obvious threats. These two pillboxes need to be removed. So let's just do them one at a time. That was number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Okay, we got the hit on 3, moving on to the last pillbox that can shoot. Number 4. Number 5. We got it. And number 6 will I think the priority is Cherbourg, cleaning out Cherbourg. So the 6th and final is a miss. Okay, so we hit our numbers there, and we dropped these 2 pillboxes. That is the last one that can threaten me. I get that there's this one over here on Sword Beach, but there's no assets in the water for it to shoot at, so we could theoretically remove that card. Anyway, that I think is the main goal, or one of the primary goals, is the Allied players get those blockhouses off you on the first round, or at least before you get to moving pieces on the second round, I should say. Okay, now it comes to deploying the fighters, and I did leave them alone because there's not really any need to return them to the airfield when you're playing on AAA. Now is the time we're going to manipulate the fighters. I'm going to pull off these 2 Brits here. I'm going to maintain this carpet down here to ensure that all the Rennes reinforcements at the very least get pegged. And I'm going to leave the fighter over the Utah Beach hex. And let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 American, so we're going to put 1 British here. 1, 2, we'll add 1 British here. This is the prime real estate reinforcement zone, and especially since my opponent's AA gun was knocked off, it's just a time to kind of capitalize on this and force him to displace to Chartres or the other Rennes location. Okay, that leaves 1 last fighter here, and this one needs to relocate as well for the plan that I have here. I'm going to put it between Caen and the Rouen location in the bottom right, and the reason for this is very simple. This is to either penalize or deter movement into Caen from these 4 armor in Rouen, while at the same time keeping the allied fighters safe from ground fire. So I could put it over Rouen proper, but it wouldn't really do what I want it to do, and it would add risk. So that is the final answer for the fighters. I will submit this, and we'll move to the bombers. Okay, so for the bombers, it's pretty obvious to me what I want to do. Everybody's got an AA gun over them except for this G25 pair of infantry. I guess we could go for the Rennes armors, and man, there's probably a good argument to do that. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get another opportunity, so I'm going to put both of my bombers on Rennes armors. I really wanted to put them up here to dispose of these infantry pieces here, but you know, the German armor attack on 3 and defend on 3. They're by far the most lethal piece in the game, and we've got them out here in a position where they can't do much. So for now, yeah, 1 bomber on 1 tank and 1 bomber on another tank. Okay, so we've got it here. Let's just roll the dice. Bombers at armor in Rennes G34, so 1 each. Alright, 2 hits. So we use the edit mode and remove. Okay. So now we move to the combat move for the Allies. Blockhouses fire to sea, but again, no targets, so we just skip that for the German player, and here we are. So here's what I've decided to do for this combat move. Well, first, the only attack that's mandatory is is this. These two survivors from the 82nd have to plunge into this, and so the decision, I've already kind of made it with the fighter placement, is to abandon them or reinforce them, and I've gone with the abandon them. And I'll just try to string out these reinforcements in these two zones. The 4 that land on Utah Beach are protected by this fighter, and the 4 that move south of the 82nd are protected by this fighter. Now, very likely that these two pieces will die this turn, and then these German units here will be free to attack or fall back. And so to deter them from attacking, we have those fighters protecting them. The Omaha Beach, that actually I'm not quite sure yet what I want to do with them. So, but we'll start from this end. I'm going to push these. Whoops, sorry. I know what I'm doing here. I want to put my best attack units in here. The reason is kind of a numbers game. 2 armor and 2 artillery, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 infantry. Meat shields, basically to absorb hits. That's maxed out 8 units. I really can't get, literally can't get anything better in there. And then I think we'll go ahead and just reposition these 3 infantry here, 3, 4, and then this fellow will move here, just sort of get him closer to St. Lo. And then finally, Sword Beach moves towards St. Lo. And then we, of course, land everybody. So there we are, 4, 5, 6 units adjacent to Caen to feed the fight in there, if it comes to that. With an armor in range as well. Otherwise, we're sort of... in fact, yeah, let's just lunge forward everywhere Omaha Beach moves in. And that's it. So we're done. We have 3 fights. And that's it. So we'll do this suicide attack in G10. This is really just a question of, do we get anything? No. And they annihilate us. Okay. Kind of knew that was coming. G12. Hopefully we pick up this kill, and we do. And he missed. Okay, so not too bad. We lost 2 infantry over here, but they lost 1. Now we're sort of somewhat solidified. And then over here in Caen. And depending on the hits, oof, only 1. Wow, so we shot under. Don't think there's really a question. We'll just take out the AA gun. And they picked up there too. Yeah. Oh well, sometimes it's like that. Okay, so there we are. And I will toss this back over to my opponent. And we'll catch you in the next video.